for watching Any Given Sunday Sports Special.
Well, the playoff positions are decided. Now we just need to know who's third and who's fourth.
So keep it locked here as we discuss it all on Any Given Sunday Sports Special. Thanks for tuning in to Any Given Sunday Sports Special. Steve and Jesus here again. We're going to quickly go into our games. We had our first game was Dream Killers putting up 111 points, beating out the New York Powers, who actually still clinched the #1 spot with 106. What do you think about that game?
We got the #1 spot. Powers were cheesing. They are in. I'm telling you guys, this team has been the most focused team from week 1 all the way to the end. Props to that team. But again, they have to realize their job is nowhere near done.
Yep. The second game we had was the Dominican Elites. They put up 84 points, cashing out. Puts up a $101. What do you got to say about that game?
So you draft Cam Newton to be one of your main go-to guys. You pay a lot of money for him. Most important game of the season, you bench him, and he puts up 40 points. Ouch! Ouch!
It's the third game we had was concussion. Alex Smith more often puts up 109 against the underachievers who lose, putting up 93. What do you think about that game, my friend?
Some running back by the name of Bryce Brown made Dom really forget about who LaShawn McCoy was. And Pops, yeah, this loss eliminated him from the playoffs. He was in it. I heard the curses and the foul language all the way from over here in Clifton. So,
all right, our fourth game, we had Lux Empire puts up 90, but it was McPoon Goat Engines putting up the highest score of this week of 121. What do you have to say about that one?
I have to say that everybody, and I mean everybody, was banking on Steve's and his Empire winning this game, because this would have had a crazy logjam for that last playoff spot. And as it's happened multiple times, Steve and his Empire could not pull through. We're going to get into this a little bit as to what I think about this team and what's been happening this year. But once again, they failed to come through when needed.
Yep, and then our game of the week, D-Town pulls another close one off, 102 to Tomato Cage Burger Suits 93. What do you think about that one?
D-Town has clinched the #2 seed, clinched the division, arguably probably the toughest division we've had in years. And I was on the bandwagon to start the season, then I jumped off. Am I going to get back on? I don't know just yet. I think you have some facts for me after the next segment.
Absolutely.
To convince me otherwise.
So, all right, guys, now we're going to go into our next segment.
Come along, follow me as I lead through the darkness, as I provide just enough spark that we need.
All right, guys, now we're going to go into our playoff talks. It's official. We have our 4 teams locked in. What do you think?
Powers, D-Town, Rich, and Shakir. I think those probably were the best teams, the most consistent teams this season. The 3rd and 4th seed are yet to be determined. The 1 seed is the Powers, 2 seed is D-Town. So it just comes down to between Shakir and Rich. Whoever wins that game is the #3 seed. Whoever loses is the #4 seed. So I think the teams that are in there are very deserving of it.
It's possible. It's possible. There are teams they are very deserving. The records say for themselves, obviously, but there are some alarming things out there.
Well, I do have to actually bring something up. There was a specific GM in the league that took offense to some of your calling them out, I guess you could say, at times. So he wanted me to read to you a text. I apologize, I'm looking at the phone, but I have to read to him this text, okay? It says, and this is from the GM of D-Town, Sir Dennis Graham Jr., okay? It says, I think I'm deserving of an apology. If my team was inferior to his team, which everybody knows you're the owner of the Lux Empire.
Yes.
If my team was inferior to him, why did I have more wins, make the playoffs, and am a combined 4-1 against the teams that are in the playoffs? Not to mention, and most importantly, won a division that was probably the hardest since the league was created, even without a stellar quarterback play. Facts to chew on for this show.
It's funny how a guy will respond after being silent for 3 weeks. On top of that, being rumored that he was probably going to leave the league because he lost so many times in a row. Let's start off with #1. #2, let's look at D-Town and really break down their schedule and how they made it in to the playoffs, okay?
Wow.
So after I predicted and I told y'all that they would lose 3 straight, I did say that, you know, they would eventually turn it around, but maybe 1 or 2 games. All right? So week 10, he puts up 127. Deserving. I can't argue against that. But then again, week 12, he scores 71 points in a tie. 71 points, a tie, goes to bench, and he wins. Okay? On top of that, this kid has only scored over 100 times 5 times. 5. You know how many other teams who are not in the playoffs who have scored just as many times? There is Lux Empire. There is the Achievers. And then there is also a playoff team who has a worse, or I believe right now, a worse record than him. And that is the McPoon Handler Goat Engines. Okay? Now, let's go look into points, everybody. So let's look at the actual total amount of points. This game, we'll all say, involves around luck sometimes here and there. This team is simply lucky. When you are 4th in your division as far as points for at 1,189, there are 3 other teams above you. One of them with a losing record, and the other 2 obviously making the playoffs supposedly. There is an aspect of luck. This team is going to go into the playoffs, and they're going to be the biggest disappointment in the playoffs. Hands down, point blank, period. Okay. This is the team, Shakir's team of last year, who has a great record and is going to do nothing and get knocked out of the playoffs.
I completely understand where you're coming from. You know, the 71-71, that game was as ugly as it gets. I give you all that. But, Steve, I'm sorry. At what point in time will you finally give this team credit? He's constantly over 500, year in, year out. Not to mention, there's been 2 years where I believe he was 10-3. 2 years he was 10-3. This year, what's he going to be? I believe like 9-4 probably if he wins next week. Maybe 8-5 or something like that.
Right.
The guy's constantly in it every single year. He pushes the right buttons. Granted, I'm not saying it doesn't come with luck. Obviously, it does come with luck. But at some point in time, you have to give the team credit.
I am giving the team credit. They made the playoffs. Good for them. But it's just funny when a team doesn't talk for 3 weeks, is completely silent. Rumors are coming out that they don't want to be in this league anymore. And then they're coming back out and they want to attack everybody else once they finally clinched. You know what I mean? And then when you look at the actual numbers and you start looking at, oh, well, they made it 71-71. Okay. 95-81 versus Dream Killer. All right. A 43. They got 43 points against the elites. Anybody's going to win that game, okay. And then you look down, oh, here's another one. McPoon Handlers only put 65 in week 6. Any other team's going to win that game as well. I'm just saying, it's pretty alarming here, man.
But to go back as far as leaving the league, from what I was hearing, okay, this is what my sister's telling me, he was just mentally tired. Okay, he's considering retirement. He thinks that he's proven everything he's had to prove. Now, again, this doesn't mean that he's leaving the league. Because if you ask me, if I'm putting, my money on it, I think he's staying. I don't think there's any way that competitiveness leaves him. That's just my honest opinion of it, But to me, this team is the model of consistency. When you think about consistency year in and year out. Even the year he didn't make the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, he was over 500.
He was 7-6, yes.
So, I mean, the guy is constantly winning games. And, you can bring up about the schedule that he faced and this and that. But guess what, bro? He had the same exact schedule that you had. He had the same exact schedule that everybody in that division had. And he not only beat teams, but he beat Shakir twice, who is probably one of the better teams in the league. He beat McPoon Handlers twice, who's probably one of the better teams in the league. He's beaten the Empire once, maybe twice. Let's see what happens this week. Who, again, one of the highest scoring teams in the league. So, everything you've thrown at him, he's beaten. He's held his own. Like, at what point in time are you just going to say, okay, you know what? I was wrong. This guy is a force to be reckoned with. At what point would you finally admit that?
Just, all I have to say on a final note is you take his schedule and take Lux Empire's schedule and their points that they scored that week and just switch them. It'll answer a lot of you'll see what I'm talking about, because I'm telling you, you look at the other teams like Empire, who are one of the higher scoring teams, you know what I mean, and their losses are 127, 108, 117, 119, 109, 103, 121. All right? So all I'm saying is there is an aspect of luck that, and yes, he has solid teams. That I'm not disagreeing with that. I am agreeing that he has a solid team. But when you come at people and when you're trying to say that you're this all superior team, when you look at the numbers, you're not. The Empire have outscored you. What's his name? Achievers are almost there at outscoring you. The McPoon handlers, who you swept, outscore you this whole entire year. So that's all I'm saying is if you want to talk when you're losing as well.
Okay. And so real quick, we're running out of time with this segment, but so do you think the Empire win this game against D-Town this week?
Absolutely.
You guaranteeing it?
Guaranteed.
What happens if you don't? What will you do on the show if you don't?
I'll definitely apologize. If he wants an apology, I will give you an apology. But you're not winning. Last week is your final win of the season.
Wow. Okay, and real quick, we need your predictions as far as the playoffs. Who's the most dangerous team? And then I'll give mine after you give yours.
Most dangerous team is the McPoon handlers. I think McPoon is the most dangerous team. Mm-hmm. They're peaking at the right time. They just put up a $121. RG3's playing great. I'm still concerned about this rookie wall. I've been saying it off this show, and he can attest to it. That I think this is one scary team that if they don't hit their rookie wall, this team's gonna win a championship.
Okay. And so, do you see them? Is that your prediction? Who's winning it all?
I think it's gonna be the Powers and McPoon, depending on how it's seeded.
Okay.
But that's my prediction right now. But again, we'll see how it seeds out, and then I'll give you my actual picks for next week.
My most dangerous team, I was going to say D-Town, but I think you kind of sold me on a little bit. To be honest with you, I have to go with Shakir's team, actually. Shakir's team is with another good pick. Breeze and Adrian Peterson. Those two guys can will you to victories week in and week out. So those are my sleepers. We'll give you our official picks next week as far as who's winning it all and everything once the brackets are set up. Now we're going to go real quick into our other segment and the picks.
All right, Jesus, now we're going to go quickly into our picks. Game number 1, we have Powers going into cashing out. Who do you got?
You know what? Powers lost the game last week, so I've been picking against them all season. I'm going to flip it a little bit on you guys. I'm taking the Powers.
I'm also taking the Powers. I think they're a great team, and they're going to get that 10th win. Our next game, we have the Elites versus Concuss Alex Smith more often. Who do you got in that one?
You know what? Concuss Alex Smith more often. They're on fire. The Elites, I don't know what's going on over there with that team. I am going with the Concuss Alex Smith. I'm
going to go with the Elites. I'm going to get a little froggy. I think they're going to get to their 5th win, and hopefully next year they'll be able to improve. Our next game, we have the Underachievers versus Dream Killer. Both of them 5-7. Who do you got?
I think that the Underachievers pull it off. The receiving core is going to help them. Aaron Rodgers has a big game, but Pops is really dejected. But I'll take them anyways. I got
to take the Achievers as well. This is a good team that unfortunately, really hard division. It happens. And then we have 5-7 Lux Empire going into 8-4 D-Town Tigers. You already know who I'm picking, so it's up to you.
I mean, I want to pick the Lux Empire, but this team has disappointed me week in and week out. I'm done picking them. I'm off the bandwagon officially. Well, obviously because they're out of the playoffs. But I have to go with D-Town just because the Lux Empire, when it counts, when it's most important, they don't come through. All
right, and then our final game, obviously, game of the week. This depends on seeding right here. Both 7-5. You have the GOAT Engines going into Tomato Cage. Who do you have in that one?
Well, I'm actually going to go with Tomato Cage. Why? Because I think Drew Brees and Adrian Peterson find their way this week. Peterson going against Green Bay. Love that matchup. And Drew Brees going against Atlanta. Love that matchup.
I'm going to take the GOAT, man, until I see this rookie wall. And, hopefully it happens this week so I don't have to pick them in the playoff. But I just don't see it happen, and I think they're a hot team, and they're gonna get that 8th win. Alright guys, that was our show. Hope you enjoyed it. We hope you guys tune in next time when we actually go down into playoff brackets and whatnot.
That's right, it's finally here, almost there.
Alright guys, take care. Thanks for watching Any Given Sunday Sports Special.
Wow, Steve, you went in on Dennis, man. You just have no mercy. But you know what? I guess you're going to have to back up that talk this week.
Absolutely no mercy. A bunch of games that are meaningless. And now we're left with just seeding. So keep it locked and watch next week as we break it down on Any Given Sunday Sports Special.